Chen Guangbiao's thoughts, May 16. Time, May 16. Plan year, location, country C, TJ City. Country C is an ancient civilization with a long history in Telenstar. It was once famous on Telenstar for its rich production of porcelain. Porcelain was once called China in the world's lingua franca. Later, gradually, China, this very representative noun, became the name of Country C in the world of Tran. In the north of Country C, TJ City, in 2116, global warming caused polar ice to melt and the sea level to rise. 100 years have passed. Southeast of TJ City, the ruins of Binhai New area have been immersed in the seawater. The morning sun rises from the sea. The sunlight, struggling to pass through the thick haze, reflects a strange color. It is not like a rising sun, but more like a sunset, with a blood-red color. Through the window, blood-red sunlight entered the luxurious ward of a large hospital. Chen Guangbiao was lying on the hospital bed with a big beard on his face. He looked like a savage now. In this bright ward, everything was new and bright, including flowers with dewdrops, smooth metal instruments, white walls. It seemed that the only thing old and lifeless in this room was Chen Guangbiao himself, like the only touch of gray in a bright picture, a lifeless gray. He looked like he was dead. If the instrument hadn't still displayed his heartbeat waveform, no one would have known he was still alive. His eyes were closed, his face was pale, and he looked lifeless. However, in the mind of this lifeless person, his consciousness still exists. His face is pale, but his consciousness is colorful and colorful. Red is the red lips of the beauty, yellow is the delicious bread, green is the cool tree, blue is the traceless sky, and white is the pure white clouds. Chen Guangbiao was lying on the bed with colorful memories flashing through his mind. The memories generated by his countless contacts with the world, light and sound, cold and heat, were etched in his mind and infiltrated into every neuron of his, beating with joy, pain, and never-ending. You, Chen Guangbiao. On weekdays, you are a successful man in suits and leather shoes, with luxury cars and mansions. What about before you step towards the door of success? You work hard, day and night. How many officials have you served? How many smiles have you lost? How many faces have you seen? Isn't it just to get from them? Have you gained benefits and established connections? After 10 years of hard work, you have become a well-known figure in the political and business circles. Chen Guangbiao, after all the hardships, don't you plan to start enjoying life and looking for a higher level of life? A voice said sadly in Chen Guangbiao's mind, like a reprimand from his ancestors, "Is all this worth it?" In April 2116, that is, a month ago, the hospital's examination report came out. The lung cancer was in the advanced stage and had metastasized to the brain. If we were optimistic, we would have 3 months left to live. The inspection report was placed on the bedside table, and Chen Guangbiao had read it many times. There were more inspection reports at home, and Chen Guangbiao had also read them many times. The examination reports given by every hospital were the same. The lung cancer was at an advanced stage and had metastasized to the brain. Tomorrow is Chen Guangbiao's 36th birthday, but today next year will be yours. Another voice said in his mind, "Why is this? I am still young, and I am so rich." Another voice sighed in Chen Guangbiao's mind. Why? Chen Guangbiao was lying on the hospital bed. Suddenly, his tightly closed eyes opened again, like a corpse suddenly opening its eyes. He turned his head with difficulty and looked out the window. Why? Why do I get cancer? However, there is no need to ask more. The answer to the question is right outside the window. The thick haze is so thick that even the summer sun cannot penetrate it. The tall buildings in the city are looming in the haze, mysterious and gloomy, which makes people feel depressed, and the mind is full of weird reveries. The high air passage is looming in the haze. Pedestrians walking through the passage are like ghosts walking back and forth. Summer haze should have been a strange sight to people more than 100 years ago, because more than 100 years ago, winter haze was very common, while summer haze was rare. Generally speaking, the causes of smog are related to the fluidity of the air. If the air fluidity is poor, smog will easily form. This is the process of a vicious cycle that has gradually accumulated over the past 100 years. The more serious the air pollution is, the worse the light transmittance of the atmosphere is. The worse the light transmittance of the atmosphere is, the less sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the less sunlight the Earth receives, and the lower the heat and temperature of the Earth are. The Earth has lost its original heat and can no longer heat the low-altitude atmosphere, causing it to rise and flow. The temperatures of the low-altitude atmosphere and the high-altitude atmosphere tend to be the same temperature, and it is difficult for atmospheres with the same temperature to flow with each other. For almost the same reason, in country C, the mobility of the same mild air is also weakening in the interface area between the ocean and the continent. As a result, the year-round smog enveloped the city, and the air gradually became solid and suffocating. In many areas of country C, especially in plain areas, winter is becoming more and more like summer, while summer is becoming more and more like winter. It feels like the heat death at the end of the universe has arrived early. I don't want to die. Chen Guangbiao's mouth did not move, but his heart was screaming. His dull gaze suddenly became as sharp as a sword. This sword-like gaze seemed to be piercing the god of death, who was standing in front of him. 1 month later, one day in June 2116, in the hospital of Transing TJ City, in the office of Dr. Zhang Weining. You ask what the plan is? Professor Zhang Weining said, "Is there any other plan?" He looked at Chen Guangbiao's lawyer. He didn't like this lawyer named Zhao very much. He didn't know what bad ideas this man was thinking. For the sake of his master, he seemed to be willing to do anything, a loyal lackey. Lung replacement and liver replacement may help you live an extra year. As Mr. Chen's attending physician, I do not recommend surgery because if there is metastasis in the brain, the quality of life will be very poor. Although brain metastasis from lung cancer is rare, there is still a 0.05% chance of this happening. I have told you before, Professor Zhang said, based on my experience, there is no better solution now. But he is not dead yet. I have to implement his idea. Lawyer Zhao said, he has kicked out all the psychological counselors. If I don't implement his idea, I will be kicked out too. Generally speaking, with the help of psychological counselors, most people accept the reality of the end of life calmly and put their last hope in a peaceful departure. But this Mr. Chen Guangbiao, Zhang Weining, has nothing to say. It is the job of a psychological counselor to persuade patients to die in peace, not a doctor. As a doctor now, he does not have much meaningful work to do. Lawyer Zhao curled his lips. He said that in this life, he is the only one who brainwashes others, and he will never tolerate anyone brainwashing him. He wants to live, no matter how much money it costs, as long as he can survive. He wants to live forever. Eternal life. In the depths of Zhang Weining's mind, in the darkest abyss, this word suddenly appeared. Does this person want to live forever? Zhao Lu, if you have anything to say, just say it. Zhang Weining thought for a while and said. In fact, when lawyer Zhao walked into his office, Zhang Weining saw a stack of documents in his hand. This person came prepared. So, the final solution. Lawyer Zhao handed the thing in his hand to Zhang Weining. It was a copy. It looked like someone's manuscript, a copy of the manuscript. This is my client's manuscript and his plan. Oh, what that idea did you come up with again? Dr. Zhang Weining took the material and quickly read it through. What? This is all. He could believe his eyes, so he read it several times. Are you sure you want to do this? He looked at Lawyer Zhao, shocked. Yes, Professor, I'm sure. Lawyer Zhao nodded affirmatively, and he did not avoid Zhang Weining's questioning gaze at all. Zhao Lu, you are a well-known figure in the legal profession. I don't believe you can agree to this plan. Zhang Weining said angrily, even someone like me who is new to the law knows that this is illegal and this is murder. Murder? Lawyer Zhao smiled secretly in his heart. Murder. Is it a big thing? This plan can be said to benefit many parties. Lawyer Zhao said calmly and handed another information to Zhang Weining. This plan will be of great benefit to your hospital and your reputation. You should know that sometimes, no, most of the time, publicity methods can completely cover up the ethical criticism of the plan. And as for legal issues, with me here, you don't have to worry at all. Zhang Weining took the information. There were two big words written at the end of the information. Agree? Dean Chao has agreed? Zhang Weining was even more surprised, but he deliberately lowered his voice. I'm afraid so, Lawyer Zhao said with a slightly regretful smile, and you will be the one doing the surgery. No, I want to talk to the dean. Zhang Weining grabbed the information and went straight to the dean's office. Volume 1, Chapter 2, Surgery, June 2116. The operation begins. Same month, June 2116, in a hospital in TJ City. In the spacious and bright multifunctional conference hall, experts entered and took their seats one after another to observe the entire operation process. This multifunctional conference room looks more like a satellite launch monitoring room, with less floral ceremonial decoration and more coolness and edges of technological equipment. Everyone can see that on the podium, there is a huge glass screen, which makes the entire conference hall look like an IMAX theater from 100 years ago. QCN quantum network node synchronization is normal. Brain and network mapping normal. Quantum repeater number 1, repeater number 2, number 3, are working normally. The giant glass screen displays. The giant glass screen is transparent. Through the giant screen, you can see the other side of the giant screen, which is the operating room. In the operating room, Zhang Weining and his assistants had put on surgical clothes and stood in front of the operating table. Photoelectric curves, numbers, and other data directly appeared on the giant glass screen. The illusory curves were combined with the real operating room. Everyone present felt like they were watching a newly released IMAX movie. Everyone sat down. The surgery began, and the surrounding lights dimmed. Everyone was buzzing with each other, observing and discussing at the same time. This is the first brain replacement surgery in the known history of TranStar. The old brain in Chen Guangbiao's head will be replaced with a new brain, and his consciousness will remain intact, transferred from the old brain to the new brain. In this sense, the word brain replacement does not represent the essence of the operation from an ethical point of view. This is... Ethicist Dr. Li Xiaowei tilted his head and whispered to Lawyer Zhao beside him. He did not say the last two words. It's killing, so he also has the same view as Zhang Weining. Lawyer Zhao thought. He naturally knew that what the ethicist Dr. Li said was not entirely true. He was joking, and this joke sounded very unpleasant. However, Lawyer Zhao understands that surgery does carry extremely high legal risks. It is expected that comfort procedures will not be legalized until 2117, that is, next year. Before the legalization of comfort procedures, the operation being performed today must be counted as at least 2 murders. Chen Guangbiao's original brain will be destroyed, which is the first murder. In the new brain, the donor's consciousness has not disappeared, so the donor of the new brain, Zhang Xiaonan, Lawyer Zhao recalled the name of the donor. His consciousness will be covered by Chen Guangbiao's consciousness. This is the second murder. If you have not stepped into the gray area of the law, what else would a lawyer do with this operation? Lawyer Zhao smiled nonchalantly and said to Dr. Li Xiaowei, "Maybe one day we will also want to be murdered, like this?" Li Xiaowei was stunned for a moment, then smiled and fell into deep thought. Li Xiaowei was not the only one who was thinking deeply. Among the people sitting there was another person sitting next to Li Xiaowei who was frowning in deep thought. He was Dr. Tang Jingtao, a quantum network expert. Chen Guangbiao's consciousness will be amplified, maintained, and transmitted through quantum relays. Therefore, from the time when the operation first entered the planning stage, many experts have been privately calling Tang Jingtao the person who holds Chen Guangbiao's soul. Tang Jingtao also heard the conversation between Li Xiaowei and Lawyer Zhao. When the previous two people's conversation was suspended, Tang Jingtao also approached Lawyer Zhao's ear and asked about the human security regulations. The human security regulations are an important international law passed by the United Nations in 2020. The main purpose of the legislation is to prohibit the transfer of human consciousness to the internet. Obviously, Chen Guangbiao's surgery also stepped into the gray area of this law. Lawyer Zhao turned around and complained to Dr. Tang. "Old Tang, you are not kind. Didn't you say that the QCN network is not part of the internet? Don't cheat me. As agreed in advance, you are responsible for explaining the technical details. Don't let it slip." Tang Jingtao knew what Lawyer Zhao meant. As long as the operation was not done through the internet, it would not violate international law. "Well, that's no problem," Tang Jingtao said. Quantum_connection_network is a private network, of course not the internet. Don't worry about this. Lawyer Zhao nodded. "Hey, by the way, Dr. Jingtao," Lawyer Zhao suddenly said to Tang Jingtao, "this QCN quantum network is said to be able to completely simulate the working mode of the human brain. Is it true?" "Of course it's true," Tang Jingtao whispered. "Otherwise, what should I do if the Chen Guangbiao who wakes up after the operation is not Chen Guangbiao? This is not a joke." "I heard that quantum is uncertain," Lawyer Zhao added, "but our job is to ensure that Chen Guangbiao who wakes up must be Chen Guangbiao and cannot be someone else. In other words, we have to get a certain result. So I have always been curious about how you get a certain result through uncertain things." Get a certain result through uncertain things. Tang Jingtao smiled secretly. "You are still so eloquent, my Lord Zhao." In fact, at the beginning of the planning of this operation, in addition to Tang Jingtao, who was privately called the controller of the soul, Lawyer Zhao was also given a nickname. Because of his eloquence, he was called the King of Quarrels. Human consciousness is uncertain. Tang Jingtao said, "I know this is difficult to understand, because most people cannot distinguish the difference between memory and consciousness. Memory is certain, but consciousness is uncertain. Therefore, my job is to use one uncertain thing to copy another uncertain thing. Then we get something even more uncertain, right?" Lawyer Zhao added. "No," Tang Jingtao smiled. "On the contrary, an uncertain thing can only be simulated by another uncertain thing. The specific method is quantum entanglement. First, we get the counter-consciousness of consciousness, and then we get a copy of the original consciousness from the counter-consciousness. I put it this way, I believe you can understand." Lawyer Zhao thought about Piank, shrugged, and smiled awkwardly, saying that he didn't understand clearly or couldn't explain clearly. "Anyway," Tang Jingtao continued, "whether you understand it or not, whether the final result is certain or uncertain, whether it is Chen Guangbiao or someone else, It depends on the sharp tongue of you and Dr. Xiaowei. I am not responsible for the interpretation of law and ethics. After saying this, both of them laughed. While Zhao, Li, Tang, and other idlers were enjoying themselves in the multifunctional hall, on the other side of the IMAX giant screen, in the operating room, Zhang Weining was sweating profusely from his work. In the inaudible ticking of time, the fate of the patient on the operating table depended on the doctor's sudden thought and the flick of a finger. Therefore, Zhang Weining had to concentrate extremely hard, and every stitch and every cut must be precise and accurate. Otherwise, the result of hundreds of billions of investments is certain: a dead body. Volume 1, Chapter 3, Haze Removal Plan Revised, July 2116. Volume 1, Chapter 3, Whose Child, 2116. Chen Guangbiao woke up 1 month after the operation. For other patients, waking up is almost the most important thing. Waking up means that the operation is successful, which is the glory of the doctor and the glory of all the experts involved in the operation. But for this patient, waking up may be a nightmare. What happens next if he is no longer who he is? Kill him? Obviously not. This defective product cannot be dealt with in this way. If 1 month after he wakes up, he discovers that the surgery has created a Frankenstein's monster, how should he explain it to his family? Explain to Exchange Chamber of Commerce? How to tell if it is him or not? Before the operation, Tang Jingtao had already made technical preparations, which was necessary. As long as the brainwave pattern similarity between the two people before and after the operation is more than 95%, it can be judged that they are the same person, and the experimental data is very reliable. However, something unexpected happened to Chen Guangbiao. The brainwave pattern similarity is only 82.33%, lower than 90%. Tang Jingtao immediately informed lawyer Zhao that Chen Guangbiao had not yet woken up at this time, so the surgical team still had time to choose whether to wait for Chen Guangbiao, who is not Chen Guangbiao, to wake up, or to let him sleep forever and then declare the operation failed, and it was over. The brainwave similarity was less than 95%. After learning that this had disappeared, compared to the nervous Tang Jingtao, lawyer Zhao just hummed. "I will take care of it. You don't have to worry about it," he said calmly to Tang Jingtao. After confirming that Chen Guangbiao would wake up soon, the attending physician Zhang Weining, Li Xiaowei, Tang Jingtao, and others all withdrew from the luxurious ward, leaving only lawyer Zhao. Chen Guangbiao opened his eyes. He found that only lawyer Zhao was present, but he was not surprised. "Have the surveillance been turned off?" "Brother Wen," he asked Zhao Wen. In order to take special care of patients, the luxurious ward is under the surveillance of electronic eyes 24 hours a day. "Mr. Chen, everything is closed." Lawyer Zhao nodded. At this time, lawyer Zhao had confirmed that he was still him, because if he wasn't him, he wouldn't have remembered to ask the surveillance question. He wouldn't recognize Zhao Wen either. No one else is present, which is good. Chen Guangbiao said to Zhao Wen with a smile. It was a prior agreement to ask everyone except Zhao Wen to avoid him when he woke up. Doctors, nurses, wives, and children are all other people. Can we let them in now? Lawyer Zhao asked after Chen Guangbiao became more awake. Chen Guangbiao took a deep breath, glanced at the ward door, and nodded. Now he needs witnesses to prove that he is still him. The more witnesses, the better. Let them all come in, Chen Guangbiao added. Now we can let them turn on the 24-hour monitoring, he added. Chen Guangbiao was discharged from the hospital a week later. This was an early discharge. Zhang Weining originally suggested that he rest for a month before being discharged. However, Chen Guangbiao insisted on being discharged, saying that the Exchange Chamber of Commerce now had urgent matters to deal with, and Zhang Weining did not stop him. Chen Guangbiao had to meet a group of people, the shareholders and directors of the board of directors, who were waiting for him. None of them had visited him in the hospital, so Chen Guangbiao knew that they were waiting for him to see them, kneel in front of them, and beg them not to elect the new president of the Chamber of Commerce or to remove him. Since Chen Guangbiao was admitted to the hospital, the stock prices of the Chamber of Commerce's companies have been falling, which was caused by company executives selling stocks. Therefore, the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce had passed the charter long before Chen Guangbiao was admitted to the hospital. If Chen Guangbiao cannot be discharged from the hospital before July 15th, 2116, or if he is unable to continue to be competent after being discharged, then the board of directors will elect a new president. On July 14th, the day before the deadline, Chen Guangbiao held an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders in the number 1 conference room on the top floor of the Exchange building in the T5 Central Business District of TJ City, the Chamber of Commerce headquarters. In front of the long table, he sat in the chairman's position, and all 24 board members were absent. The venue was peaceful. Every director has a smile on his face, but Chen Guangbiao knows that there is something else behind the smile. At today's conference, these smiling people will definitely raise a lot of questions. If they cannot resolve these problems as effectively as before, they will still persuade themselves to retire and kick themselves out of the board of directors. At the beginning of the meeting, the directors first expressed their congratulations on Chairman Chen Guangbiao's recovery. Of course, at this moment, Chen Guangbiao is still the president of the Chamber of Commerce and the host of this conference, and the initiative is still in his hands. Dear directors, Chen Guangbiao said to everyone, his tone full of respect, in today's meeting, I, Chen, will first report to you the operation status of the Chamber of Commerce in the past 6 months. After that, Chen Guangbiao motioned to the female secretary Ouyang Meizi standing beside him to explain the PPT slides. However, just when Ouyang Meizi opened the slides and prepared to explain to everyone, several directors expressed objections. There's no need for these scripted things, Mr. Chairman, the directors said. The operating situation in the past 6 months has not been very good. Another director complained, many senior executives are selling stocks. This person glanced at Chen Guangbiao with ill intentions while speaking. Chen Guangbiao remembered that just 6 months ago, just before he was admitted to the hospital, this person proposed that Chen Guangbiao temporarily hand over the power to a well-known professional manager in the industry, using this person's reputation to stabilize people's hearts. But Chen Guangbiao did not agree at that time, because if he knew it was just a pretense, give power to a puppet, and then let these profit-seeking and short-sighted people run the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce will only collapse faster, and maybe it has already been broken up and sold at a low price. These people are all investors of the Chen Guangbiao Chamber of Commerce. They invest just for money, and morality is not considered. Although Chen Guangbiao himself is now the largest investor in the Chamber of Commerce, his own funds still only account for 40% of the total capital of the Chamber of Commerce, and he cannot lose the 60% support. Even if 10% of the funds are taken away, it will be very detrimental to the Chamber of Commerce and will accelerate the decline of the Chamber of Commerce. They believe that the decline of the Chamber of Commerce is irreversible, but Chen Guangbiao will never let anyone take the lead in divestment. Once someone takes the lead, others will follow suit. Once a trend is formed, it is truly irreversible. If there is still no substantive results from today's meeting, divestment is inevitable. One director expressed his true feelings, and his tone was very sincere. Actually, no one wants to see the Chamber of Commerce fall into a pessimistic future. In the Chamber of Commerce, you are the one who has paid the most. This is recognized